movement, I think in the last 3 or 4 years ago, was to stage a WWE event in Africa, knowing so well that there's a huge followership of that sport right here in Africa, and they were able to do that to tap more into the African market. Right about now, there are Nigerians, there are Africans who are in the WWE and who are doing so well. I mean, there was one, I can't remember his name yesterday right now, but there was one event yesterday where we had a Nigerian who, of course, couldn't get to win his fight eventually. But hey, just think about this from the business prospect of having the WWE and the UFC merge into one. Now, according to Ari Emanuel, who is the chief executive at Endeavor, it says, and I quote, "This is a rare opportunity to create a global live sports and entertainment pure play built for where the industry is headed. For decades, Vince and his team have demonstrated an incredible track record of innovation and shareholder value creation, and we are confident that Endeavor can deliver significant additional value for shareholders by bringing UFC and WWE together." Now, WWE has a global reach and a fan base which includes a wide age demographic and a range of incomes. In fact, I mean, you find the young, the old, men, women, different class of people, socio-economic classes of people following the WWE. I mean, it shows that they have a very large demography that the UFC can actually use at this point. I'm just looking at the crossover advantage for both sports now in this case. Now, the company had more than 16 billion social media video views in the final quarter of 2022. It has nearly 94 million YouTube subscribers and has more than 20 million followers right there on TikTok. So all of these numbers is what I believe the UFC can actually use to strengthen their brand as well. Now, with these two entities coming together, it'll be interesting to see what the mode of the sports will be. I mean, is there going to be a WWE arm of the franchise? Is there going to be a UFC arm? I mean, of course, we know that there's a bit of wrestling in UFC. So, I mean, I really can't wait to see, maybe over the coming couple of weeks or thereabouts, they will perhaps get to see what exactly this merger would mean for these two sports, and of course the fan base that already exists with the WWE. Now, for WWE, 5 of its female wrestlers are in the world's top 15 most followed female athletes across Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and it's also led by former UFC fighter Ronda Rousey, who has 36.1 million followers. I think I have to pay more attention to wrestling. I mean, I haven't done that since we were little, and then I got to know that it was scripted. That kind of turned me on off the sport. But hey, they continue to command huge numbers, and I cannot wait to see what this partnership, this merger, would mean for either side at the end of the day. All right, moving on from there, let's talk about football now. And from the women's perspective, that's the Women's World Cup. The home jersey, Nike has released a jersey for its countries going to the Women's World Cup. And of course, it's the first time that Nike is going to be releasing kits, especially for women. I mean, oftentimes you find out that the women get to use the jerseys or the kits that were originally designed for the men's national teams of their countries. That's what they get to use at their own events. But this is the first time that Nike has decided to create something special, something different, and it's just going to be for the ladies, for the women, as they head to the World Cup. I mean, I also look at it as Nike also trying to further take an advantage or to buy into what was the progress that was recorded at the 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup, and what are those things that they could do differently, of course, to reach more audience, to generate more money. I mean, whatever you can think of it, whatever the objective might be, I think it's actually absolutely a brilliant idea. And for the home jersey for the Super Eagles, Super Falcons now of Nigeria is built a luminous green color, which is very similar to that was worn by the Super Eagles of Nigeria at the 2002 World Cup. Now, if you remember Korea, Japan 2002, that jersey that we wore that looked like a lemon color. I mean, every time I remember that jersey, there's just one face that keeps flashing across, and that's of Efetobore Soje. I mean, with his bandana and all of that. But if you remember that jersey very well, and then of course, I think you have an idea of what the home jersey of the Super Falcons is going to be going into the FIFA Women's World Cup right there in Australia and New Zealand. And according to Nike, it features the typical Nike color design in white, which is to represent the country's major colors. It also features a unique pattern on the cuffs and socks, which Nike says is based on traditional Nigerian artwork and textiles. Now, Nigeria's second or away kit is a very dark shade of green, which is decorated with luminous patterns across its entirety that are made of traditional prints and modern designs that serve as an homage to the team name Super Falcons. I mean, I think you should go on social media. Maybe you get to see what the jerseys are looking like. I mean, for me, I'm all about that away kit. It is absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's one I could actually buy, top and the shorts. It is very, very fine. But I don't know about the home jersey anyway. I don't know. Maybe because it reminds me of I keep getting memories of what the Super Eagles did at the Korea Japan Tour 2002. I mean, which wasn't so much of a great tournament. But I hope that this will be a difference right there for the Super Falcons. Well, Nike also unveiled jerseys for other nations. They do kits at the Women's World Cup, including the host New Zealand and Australia, as well as Brazil, England, France, Korea, Netherlands, Canada, Norway, Portugal, China, and of course the defending champions, United States of America. And for England, they will be wearing blue shorts instead of the white at this summer's Women's World Cup after the players expressed a concern. And I think it's absolutely incredible that Nike and even the Football Association right there in England are actually listening to what these players are saying, what they say they want. The players expressed concerns about their periods. I mean, having periods while they are playing and then putting on white again. You know how embarrassing that can be. Well, the new home kits will be worn for the first time on that's in Thursday's inaugural finalissima game against Brazil right there at Wembley. And it is white and blue details and blue shorts, while the away kit is all blue. Now, players including Beth Mead and Georgia Stanway spoke about wearing white shorts during England's victorious Euro 2022 campaign. And at the time, the Football Association said the colour of the shorts would not change during the tournament, but that the situation would continue to be looked at as players' feedback. And the players' feedback, rather, will be taken into consideration for future designs. And that is exactly what has now been done. But domestically, Manchester City, West Bromwich Albion and Swansea women's team, that are among those that chose to change the shorts colour of their home kits because of concerns of having to wear white while the players are on their periods. I mean, I'm just so happy that someone is listening to the concerns raised by these women, and of course it's been addressed. So we cannot wait to see all of these jerseys, right there in full display at the World Cup. While we'll continue to see, or perhaps get to see, an amazing display of women's football and an improvement of what we saw at the FIFA Women's World Cup in 2019 back in France. And still talking about FIFA-related stories here, Peru became the second country in recent weeks to be stripped of the right to host a FIFA tournament after the governing body on today said the South American nation had failed to fulfill infrastructure commitments ahead of the FIFA Under-17 World Cup. Now, FIFA said the Under-17 tournament is still set to take place from the 10th of November until the 2nd of December, adding that its council would designate a new host. And according to FIFA in a statement, the move was made given the inability of the host country to fulfill its commitment to completing the infrastructure required to stage the tournament. And despite a very positive working relationship between FIFA and the Peruvian Football Federation, it has been determined that there is now not sufficient time to secure the required investment and complete the necessary work with the Peruvian government ahead of the tournament start date. So Peru will no longer host the Under-17 World Cup. And who will host next? There's no idea yet. I'll continue to keep our fingers crossed and wait on FIFA to announce a new host. Remember, Indonesia was stripped of its hosting rights for the Under-20 World Cup just last month following outrage among some politicians in the predominantly Muslim nation about Israel's participation. So both tournaments were initially scheduled to take place in 2021, but were moved to 2023 this year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, away from FIFA stories now, let's head straight into club football. And from England, we begin today. Well, Wolves have been fined £57,500 by the Football Association for failing to control their players in last month's 4-2 Premier League defeat by Leeds. Now, players and staff protested at Rodrigo Moreno's stoppage time goal at Molino, claiming that Adama Traore was fouled in the build-up. Now, youth substitute Matheus Nunes was shown a red card for his protest, but it was rescinded after Wolves appealed. Now, earlier, Wolves defender defender Johnny was sent off for a foul on Luke Island. His yellow card was then upgraded to red following the video assistant review. So Wolves have now been fined by the FA £57,500 for failing to control their players in that game. And of course, there are matches tonight in the Premier League and the Spanish La Liga. But starting with England, the Premier League, it is Everton at home to Tottenham. Tottenham Hotspur captain Hugo Lloris is returning after missing the past 9 matches with a knee injury. Ivan Perisic has recovered from a calf issue as well, but Richarlison, Yves Bissouma, and Ben Davies, Emerson Royal, and Ryan Sessegnon are still not available for this game. Everton manager Sondage has reported no fresh injury concerns. Forward Dominic Calvert-Lewin is back in training, but is not yet fit enough for consideration, while winger Andros Townsend remains a long-term absentee. Well, Everton goalkeeper Esme Begovic has no doubt Sean Dyche's side will have enough to escape relegation despite the weekend's results plunging them into 18th on the table. The Toffees round off the fixture slate with a home game against Tottenham today, knowing the congestion at the bottom of the table means a win is going to lift them up to 13th. In fact, the way the Premier League table is, structured right now, we have the top 10, the top 9 rather, and the bottom 11. Of course, over the weekend, Chelsea dropped into, they dropped into 11th spot. Well, maybe you can say top 11 now and bottom 9, because the distance between Chelsea and the team behind them, it's quite some points in there. So maybe we can say top 11 and bottom 9. But of course, it is getting heated right there in terms of relegation battle, and Everton are trying to avoid the drop. Sean Dyche has been brought in. Can he make things better for them? But just some thoughts ahead of that game tonight. Everton have won just one of their past 20 Premier League games, with Tottenham drawing 9 and losing 10. Spurs are unbeaten their last 9 visits to Goodison Park with 3 wins and 6 draws, and 5 of Everton's 6 Premier League victories this season have come at Goodison Park. So lots of goodies at Goodison Park. Let's see if Tottenham will leave there with goodies as well. And tomorrow we'll see Brighton take on going away to Bournemouth, to take on Bournemouth. But this is really not about Brighton and Bournemouth itself, but the coach, Roberto De Zerbi, at a press conference today, he's been asked about their form. He says they're playing very well, and the target is to play in Europe. In fact, he says they want to play 3 times a week next year. I hope if he gets his wishes, he won't come around to complain about fixture congestion. But hey, I understand the ambition there. They want to be playing, or they want to push for an European spot, which is very, very possible. And of course, I was asked about sackings of Brendan Rodgers and Graham Potter. In his words, says, "I am sorry, and it's a bad news for the coaches. There's too much importance on coaches. Players are the most important. I don't like it when coaches are sacked, because responsibility is also on players and the clubs. I am lucky to have these players. They are the most important. I have a team with a very good mentality, very good attitude, and I have to thank Graham Potter." Well, of course, he's got to find a way to, be gracious to his boss. Graham Potter, after he left there, Roberto De Zerbi took over, and of course, it has been, really good for Brighton so far. And David Moyes was also asked about the Premier League managers, that were sacked. Says they are in a whirlpool. The words of Moyes there, has had a lot to say about that. It says, there's a lot of money at stake to be a Premier League club, and it's a big thing for clubs to go down. So in the life of a football manager, there can always be bad times. You are very fortunate if you are one of those managers who only has good times and are winning all the time. I don't know if there's any manager who has good times all the time, wins all the time, and at some point, is not, scared or watching his back. For what we've seen in the last 48 hours or thereabout, coaches definitely have to watch their backs here, because anything can happen. And Chelsea interim head coach Bruno Sauter says it has been a difficult 24 hours for all of them at Chelsea after Graham Potter was sacked on Sunday. He says, in his words, he was at the press conference, says, "You have to do the press conference, you have to deal with the players. My relationship with Graham and Billy and how it affects families, it's difficult to deal with that. It is a sad day for the staff, because Graham and Billy are 2 top coaches and top human beings. I have to be as professional as I can and try to help and guide the players. I am just focusing on what I can control, and going day by day. End of quote there. The words of Bruno Sartor, who is the interim head coach of Chelsea. And of course, Thomas Tuchel, the man who was sacked for Graham Potter, he's also had some things to say. Well, he was asked actually if he heard about the sacking, and he said he saw the news very late last night. He says he really enjoyed working at Chelsea and formed relationships, friendships for life, but the club has changed a lot, and so it really didn't trigger big emotions in him. The words of Thomas Tuchel there. Says he didn't feel any kind of emotion, big emotion rather. After Graham Potter was sacked. I mean, I do not expect him to say anything other than that anyway. But hey, I think we understand where that is coming from. And Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp also, maybe a bit concerned about the news about managers being sacked, said that he's not afraid of being sacked by Liverpool. Instead, he says that the reason why he's still there, that he's aware of the fact that he's sitting there because of the past, the results, things as he has done with Liverpool in the past, not necessarily about what they have done this season. Says we have smart owners, they know about the situation. If this was my first season, it would be slightly different. Okay, I think it tends to say there that the owners, they kind of have his back going despite all that they have gone through this season. We're going to join our partners at the BBC right now for the BBC Premier League update.
BBC Premier League update from the home of Premier League football.
Hello, I'm Tom Payton at the BBC Sports Centre. 13 team bosses have lost their jobs in the Premier League so far this season. Graham Potter leaving Chelsea and Brendan Rodgers exiting Leicester City are the latest casualties. The former Premier League striker and someone who spent a short spell in charge of Newcastle United, Alan Shearer, says the fact that the stakes are so high are behind all of this.
Well, football is crazy. It's more crazy now than it ever has been because of the demand for success, and clubs cannot afford to be in a relegation battle, and as soon as they are, they press the panic button. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but there's no surprise. I mean, when you go into that particular job nowadays, you know the laws that come with it or the rules that come with it. You either win or you're out of a job, unfortunately. There's no time.
Christian Stellini's been given until the end of the season. That's 10 games in charge of the Tottenham Hotspur side looking for Champions League qualification. That all starts later on Monday with the clash at Sean Dyche's relegation-threatened Everton, who know a point will take them out of the drop zone. If Spurs don't lose, Stellini's side will be in the top four, but he's wary about that 3-3 draw from their last game at Southampton, which cost Antonio Conte his job.
We know which is the difference between Tottenham when win and Tottenham when didn't win. Be focused on the approach of the game and don't lose the intensity for all the game, because in the last game happened that we lose our intensity in the last 10 minutes, and that changed the game.
And for more football news from the BBC, go to bbc.com/football.
BBC Premier League update from the home of Premier League football.
Okay, welcome back from that break with our partners at the BBC, reaching home stretch of the show. And I have to bounce out of the studio in a couple of minutes from now, but the managerial sacking is not exclusive to England alone, as Espanyol have now made official the dismissal of the Diego Martinez, their coach. He has been sacked as coach of the first team. Well, there are games in the Italian Serie A, the Spanish La Liga today. Valencia are playing host to Rayo Vallecano, and the Italian Serie A, we have Empoli against Lecce and Sassuolo hosting Torino. Okay, that's how far I can go on the show this evening. Thank you very much, everyone who stayed tuned, locked on to Splash FM. Join us again tomorrow at 7:30 for another edition of the show Sports Bang. I am blessing Fowowe. Au revoir.
Here is
105.5.
Accessing
105.5.
one station, all the hits.
105.5. Splash.
Onígbọ̀wọ́ ìrun pípé yìí ni Honourable Bímbọ́ Adékànbí. Wọ́n ṣe ládùúrà wípé kí Ọlọ́run ọba Allah gba ìrawọ́rasẹ̀ àti ìyànjú wa nínú oṣù àwẹ̀ yìí. Allahumma amin.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allah. Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن